You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast, brought to you by BringingDownTheBand.com. No bad ideas. Coleman Dental and Printfinity. I am Major 7th. I make beats and I have the t-shirts to prove it. And to my left, as always, is the one and only Lonegevity.
Hello.
Good day, sir.
Hi.
You done?
Sure.
You taking Terrence's time here. It's all right, though. To my left, as always, Mr. Printfinity himself, the one and only DJ Jay Diff.
Salutations.
What's going on, brother?
I'm reclaiming my time.
Oh, you got anything else to say?
Hello.
That's it.
You got time?
You got to let him
Today
shine.
I got time, cuz.
He trying to steal your shine. You done cooking? You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Hi.
Somebody get him.
I didn't hear him say anything when you said he was taking my time. That's the reason why I said I was reclaiming my time.
He
so.
definitely took 10 to 15
he's
seconds
got
to your shine.
I got time today, cuz.
You got time?
I do.
Okay. That's what's up.
Hello.
And to my right, as always, the incomparable, wearing that Fresh Bears New Era fitted joint, DJ Spoolz.
Hello, Michael.
What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm all right, man.
You good?
Yeah.
I can't complain, man.
Yep.
Good to see you.
Good. Likewise.
Yes, sir. Episode 42, New Old Heads podcast. Bringing Down the Band is where you can find us. So 42.
Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson all day.
I think Jackie.
Maybe Ronnie Lott.
Don't do it. I see. I see you. Don't do it. You don't have anything. Don't
Who
do
is
it.
Stackhouse.
Oh man.
Jerry Stackhouse.
I knew he was gonna say one.
Nah,
son.
Ronnie Lott would be second.
James Worthy.
James Worthy.
James Worthy's good.
Yeah.
What number was Mike Allstott? Was he 40?
Think so.
Good call.
But he was 40 though.
40, I want to say.
Mike Allstott. Yep.
He was a beast though, low key. So we're gonna go.
Went to Purdue.
Jackie.
Yes. I believe so.
Jackie, it is. Episode 42, the Jackie Robinson episode. And let's go ahead and jump into the rundown. And guess where we're going to start? It's been a while, but he's given us a ton of material to discuss today.
Has it been a while?
I think it's been a week.
Has it been a week?
Man, 7 days.
I mean, you know, when you go from 7 days to, we went almost, 5 episodes?
No.
4?
We've talked about him now, unfortunately, like the last
Have we
two
did
in
the
a row.
last 2 or 3?
2 or 3, I think.
I gotta give it to James. James keeps track of that. Shout out to James, Nave, my cousin. He keeps track of our Trump meter. He's also a patron. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Did you?
Good job.
Thanks, Bradley.
Yeah,
He's not gonna tell me if I said it right. Anyway,
I got randomly tired.
come on, wake up, man. Wake up. You good?
Wake up.
I got you some Red Bull.
Like Yachty when he was getting interviewed before he went on that, was it Lollapalooza?
Where he was like,
I didn't see
He
it.
was like, there's pizza? I thought there's pizza in the room.
shout out
That's
to
awesome.
yeah, I know. We gotta cut. We got to pull the audio for
That's
that one.
great.
Do kind of like that
I'm
one.
going to chop that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Friday, August 11th, hundreds of marchers descended on the University of Virginia carrying torches, shout out to Tiki, and yellow slogans, yelling slogans, White Lives Matter and Blood and Soil. Protests turned violent in Charlottesville on Saturday as white
Imagine
supremacists, clashed with counter demonstrators, and a car plunged into a crowd of anti-racist and anti-fascist demonstrators. So there was a young lady that lost her life. I believe 19 people were injured in this. A Unite the Right rally was planned for this Friday, which is August 11th, to protest against the removal of the statue of the Confederate icon General Robert E. Lee, described as one of the largest white supremacist events in recent U.S. history. It was organized by Jason Kessler, a former journalist and a member of the Proud Boys and ultra-nationalist group, is what's listed. So it pretty much goes into a detail in terms of time frames of when everybody arrived, the speeding car incident, blah, 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 blah. So initial reactions, fellas. I'll go first, and then I'll toss it around. I was absolutely amazed that this many people would come in a demonstration bearing torches. We all know the what torches symbolize. If you think about history,
Historical symbols.
yeah, historically, what that represents, depending on who you ask. But I think that's pretty much well known to a certain age group.
For those that don't know, what would that be?
This is in relation to, at least is what made me automatically think of the Ku Klux Klan, right? So we've seen images. You can think of the Malcolm X movie, you know, when they throw stuff through the glass and
I think
Denzel
of
has to
just
run
like
outside.
a lynch mob in general.
Yeah,
but
like
yeah.
you know, just I'm just thinking in terms of people that have watched movies and might want to reference something down along the lines of that. But I was very disturbed. I could not believe that people, and these are young men. These guys are much younger than I thought. I mean, you saw all ages, but a lot of these kids were young and adamant about the things that they were screaming, the actions that were taking place. I saw fights. A lot of people got bloodied, and like we said, somebody lost their life at this demonstration. So I'm gonna go to Spoolz first. Spoolz, what was your initial reaction? Because I wasn't surprised, but I just was like, here we go again.
It's just sad.
The torch is
You know.
what really shocked me. I couldn't believe that. That was new.
My initial reaction was just sad, frustrated, angry. It's 2017.
That it is.
No, man. We could talk about this for a long time, but I'll just maybe like do it piece by piece and pass it around. But like, so the
Sure.
first thing. So people were getting together because they don't want to see the statue of Robert E. Lee removed from this park, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was
Yes.
like the reason.
Yes.
So Robert E. Lee was the general of the Confederate Army that lost in the Civil War, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So are there often statues of people who have lost wars in other countries anywhere that you guys can think of? I mean, I always
America.
remember seeing I always remember seeing statues of former leaders coming down whenever certain
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah. America
Yeah.
seems like the only place that applies losing and wants to hang on to that.
and
Forever.
I guess that's the first. So I mean, that's my first. Is that it's just kind of ridiculous with the whole. And then here's the thing, and I'm gonna probably make multiple ties back to this because the alt-right and a lot of these nationalist groups are always talking about how much they love America and how much they're into America. Now, perhaps they're right. I'll give them this in saying that America's always been a white country.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, I mean, they're right when they say that. It always has kind of been a white country. I mean, I think we all know that. It's systemic and it goes back to the beginning of this country, right? But over time, people have changed and we have changed certain things for obviously the right reasons, you know. So to me, they're obviously resistant and in many ways anti-American in that regard.
Yeah.
For being resistant to any sort of progression as far as things like that are concerned in this country.
Very good point.
So for you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to essentially do is think about it from these folks' standpoint. And there's a lot of hate there that I can't emulate if I tried, and I wouldn't want to anyway, because I'm just not hateful in that. I'm just not a hateful person. And so I can't understand that. Can't understand hating someone like that. I don't know.
Well, you spoke to the layers, so
but
we'll go to the layers.
But as far as like what these like white nationalists or alt-right or any of these groups, or they're all intertwined, I think anyway, but like what they're thinking, I mean, like it just seems like bad interpretation of history in a lot of ways too on their part. The basis for why they are even an organization. To again be so pro-American and do so many anti kind of American things seems really hypocritical and contradictory,
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like for start. Like I don't know, man. I mean, again, and that then kind of goes into seeing an American flag flying next to a Nazi flag. Like,
talk about imagery.
wow. Like, I saw a post about what do you think? How do you think that makes someone who fought in World War II feel?
Yeah.
Right. Like the group again, just challenging this group's bases and things like that. They're not legit, and they are a threat. They are a terrorist. They're a violent group. They came to fight, man. I'm sorry, like the comparisons that you've seen, like Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like these nationalists came up there like with heat. Like a lot of them did, because Virginia has very loose carrying laws. So they came up with rifles and guns. You know what I mean? Like, Black Lives Matter's never assembled with a bunch of rifles and firearms, to my knowledge.
Because
it
wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't even get that far. Jump in, Lone. I want you to jump in.
Initial thoughts.
Yeah, just initial thoughts.
I don't remember the first thing that I saw. It was probably the picture of the tiki torches.
Right.
And it looked like a bunch of young kids.
That's what shocked me, the age of some of the kids.
That was the first thing that stood out. And it's like, okay. I didn't even know what it was assembled for at the first,
right.
to begin with. I was not hip to that. This was going on. I think we were out that night.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
And
I showed you a picture, the screen caption of just the kids and the
people
torches.
walking. Yeah.
We talked about that.
It's like you said, the imagery. Things kept happening, so I was watching it as it was happening. So many things stood out. One, I didn't realize it was for Robert E. Lee at first. Like, that was the statue.
Right.
I guess it's a significant statue, quote unquote, for Confederates, right?
Right.
Confederates don't exist anymore. But anyways.
Talk that talk.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. The young thing stood out to me. The imagery of the American flags, the idea that they think that they are standing for America.
Right.
With these same beliefs is just astounding to me. And that's not taken away from the idea of what America was founded on, but when you have the symbolism of a swastika next to an American flag, next to a Confederate flag, it legitimizes every single argument that anybody has ever had about the Confederacy in the last 5-10 years, or however long, and what that flag stands for.
Right.
It was just, I don't want to say validation, because that's not necessarily what I want to get at, but it was just like, oh, that makes sense. It wasn't shocking.
Yeah, like I think pieces of it in terms of to go back around to the actual age of some of the kids that you saw out there. When I see things now, it's to the point where I'm like, we've talked about the shock factor pretty much being, if not diminished, just gone, right? So when I saw the kids with the torches, and I'm like, yo, this is around the university, college town, I was just amazed, because I'm like, these kids are younger than us, a lot of them. And we, it's just, I'm coming to Diff, but that in itself, along with the torches, those were the two things that actually shocked me. The rally itself, I wasn't really shocked about that. So
and one other thing, how organized they were.
Yes. We saw that in the documentary we were watching. I can't remember the name of it. I know you posted it.
It's a Vice doc. I don't know either.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were that hands-on. Like, we're talking about behind the scenes. We're talking about live action shots. I had no idea. That's very, very frightening. But the organization was incredible. Not in a good way, but I couldn't believe that they organized that to the point where we see people saying, I drove 12 hours away. Who told you about this, right? But I'm coming to Diff. Diff, what was your initial reaction to, we were kind of all together when we saw it, but your initial reaction?
I mean, as far as the organization of it, I mean, it's easy to be involved in those organizations. I mean, the paper literally just shared every hate organization in our state since this happened.
Right.
Which was like yesterday. They had a list of 20 of them. There's like 2 of them that are probably 10 miles up the road.
Okay.
In Kokomo and Westfield.
I believe it.
So, as far as my overall reaction, it's just crazy how it's allowed to happen like that.
Right.
So and it comes down to who's doing it, unfortunately. So if there were a bunch of black kids or Asians or Muslims, especially, if they were to gather, they definitely would not have a gun presence there.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't be allowed. It's just there's certain things that America allows to happen under this supposedly American umbrella. This makes us more American. And to you all's point, as far as the flags, I mean, it's an oxymoron that you're flying Nazi and Don't Tread on Me and Confederate flags next to the American flag. I mean, not saying that I'm saluting any of them or any form of flag, but at the same time, if one flag is supposed to represent this, but you're trying to embody all of it, that makes no sense. Because, I mean, your heritage pretty much went up in flames.
Right.
If you want to call that your heritage.
Both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Good
lost,
point.
if it's not, okay, the Nazis, that's in a whole nother country. So what does that have to do with your American birthright here? I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, there's just no.
It doesn't tie.
It doesn't
together.
stick, but
Yeah,
they
it doesn't.
make it stick.
And I really don't understand the attempted comparisons to Black Lives Matter.
There is no comparison. That's another thing.
And I don't, because you know what? Here's the thing. You don't have to be black to be a part of Black Lives Matter.
No.
You, in fact, have to be white to be a part of a white nationalist group.
You definitely do.
Talk that talk.
I mean,
Spoolz.
there's differences
I mean,
involved
like,
here.
you know,
that's a
it's-
fact.
And just with Trump, the whole Trump thing, we already know he's a dick. He's treading water. He's riding the fence here. He's not denouncing what's going on. There's nothing united about the United States.
You gave me that's actually a good segue point. I copied and pasted a couple of his responses. So you guys bear with me. I'm going to read through a couple of these, and I'm coming to you, Spoolz, after I read them. Because to me, I thought it was almost borderline. No, it wasn't borderline. It was laughable. His initial response, lack of accountability, which is Spoolz, that's your word. Terrible response from a person that has such a high position in the United States to the initial reaction. And then your argument is I always have to make sure I'm aware or I've done my research before I try to speak. Hasn't stopped you on Muslim. Hasn't stopped you on black.
He's just a fuckboy, man.
Exactly. But let me go to the quotes because there's a beyond
And that's
double
a-
standards. Not even
That's a polite way of saying
yeah,
it.
double standard's not even a phrase. Like it's 10 times worse than a double standard. But on the violence in Charlottesville, now this is just one quote. It says you had a group on one side and you had a group on the other side on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side. You can call them the left. You just called them the left. That came violently attacking the other group. And then he says, so you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. This is the president now. That's the quote. Now,
a
here's
moron.
another one. This is elaborating on the both sides comment. Now, this is his elaboration of that. I think there's blame on both sides. I don't have a doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt either. I can't believe this. And if you reported it accurately, you would say it. That's his breakdown on the both sides. So he says, I think there's blame on both sides. I don't have any doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, like I said, you wouldn't say that. He says, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts. So
Since when?
Dick's in his mouth.
since when? So
Yeah.
Spoolz, I'm coming to you, and we'll just narrow everything down.
Terry said it best. Like
I'm amazed at the lack, like I said, Spoolz. I'm just amazed at the lack of accountability, the lack of empathy. It almost sounded like it was just, let me say something to appease everybody, and then I'm gonna walk off.
I mean,
so Spoolz, go
I'm
ahead.
not surprised by it.
Right.
I just, and again, this. I mean, we talked about this earlier, and
Mhm.
last week what I was saying. I really do think that he has enabled, empowered, legitimized some of these like nationalistic thoughts or feelings that people have had, especially as it pertains to race as well.
Right.
And yeah, to Sean's point, like seeing all those young folks out there too, man, like that's not a good look. That means that it's like it's continued to, not to say it would, like it's just going to halt, but
right.
that it has like thoroughly kind of perpetuated itself down. But anyways,
you mostly see it from older white males.
Right.
Generally
exactly.
speaking. Generally.
I agree.
But now back to Trump, like, no, man, that doesn't. He has, throughout his campaign and since he's been,
he's exactly who he thought he was.
He's continued to enable a certain group of people, and that group of people, in its more extreme form, I would say, definitely reared its head in Charlottesville.
Right.
Because there's still plenty of people who feel the same way these folks do, but wouldn't come out to protest.
And there's still people out here that seen what happened, and they're more concerned with Colin Kaepernick not playing in the NFL. Rather than focusing on what's going on right here.
Talk that talk.
On our own soil.
Yep.
With our own citizens.
Yep.
I had a great back and forth with a very close friend of mine about the whole Kaepernick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very close. He's like one of my best friends in the world. And he was like, man, I'm absolutely for the cause that Kaepernick is kneeling for. He was like, but I think he's a crybaby because none of this happened until he wasn't starting a football game anymore.
Who, Cap's a crybaby?
Yeah. Was the point he had made. And I was like, that's not the point.
It's definitely
that's so far.
That's not the point.
That's not even close to the point.
But anyway, long way. We went back and forth. He was like, man, it just would have meant a lot if he did it in the Super Bowl, or if he started doing it then. Trying to kind of tie the motivation behind it or the speaking, and. But what we ended up basically coming down to was the fact that when Cornel West speaks on these things, you have to be kind of tuned in to Cornel West to know that he's talking about these things.
I met him. He's very
Colin
intelligent.
Kaepernick, the guy who throws a football for a living, throws a football, when he takes a knee, everyone cares. And it's because of the value of entertainment in our country, man.
Again.
I mean, we've talked about
the American way, so to say. So what's more American than football on a Sunday?
Right.
It's the epitome.
Maybe church.
Maybe. But him kneeling, expressing or exercising his right is un-American. Yeah. So let's shun him. And we probably shouldn't even go to Kaepernick yet because there's still a whole lot of meat and potatoes on the whole incident that happened in Charlottesville. But it's just so crazy how people tend to focus on that, but aren't focusing on what's happening in Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to Lone, and I want to.
A quick question though. I wonder, were the white nationalists protesting the right way? Because I haven't heard anybody come out and say that.
Okay,
they weren't.
That's a good question.
He actually, that's a good point, Spoolz.
Great. I'm just curious
because
whoever the new, people who decided what is the wrong and right way to protest and condemned everything, Black Lives Matter, anything like that.
Right.
I don't hear anybody saying a damn thing about
these
dudes literally running up in a park without any.
Tommy did have something to say about it.
She said she had something to say, but it was still condemning Black Lives Matter.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold that thought though. I want to ask you a question, Long.
Save that because I'm gonna forget that, and I have something to say on that.
You want to go now? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we live in America.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live in the Confederate States of America.
Right.
We do not live in Nazi Germany.
We do not.
There's no place for it, period. There's no place for it.
And I feel like if you're just to piggyback off of that, if you really truly are an American, and I'll touch on this after we get back to, but if you really understand history, and I'm talking again to this like white nationalist group, and you understand that the term white wasn't a term, like your ancestors didn't use the term white. White is a thing that was kind of created here. I mean, there's always been race in this lighter and darker shade you know what I mean? As far as that is concerned, all over, but white's not a culture.
Yeah. And even the arguments where they talk about, oh, well, we want to savor our European roots, or they try to play off of it a little bit.
Then
So-
fly a real fucking German flag and not a
Straight
Nazi
up.
one. Like, if that's really
I mean,
what I don't ever see that
bingo.
shit.
It's
Bingo.
like exactly.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's dancing around. It's just like the same.
That's a good point.
The same guys that are there marching, and people took pictures of them or whatever, and they finding them on social media,
Right.
and now they're coming out saying, "Well, don't label me a racist."
Oh yeah, I'm not
just
really
because
a racist.
I'm there.
No, you are.
No,
Yeah.
you are racist. Own it.
Own it.
If you're going to be a part of it, own it.
Yeah.
Be
It
a
just
part of
goes to
it.
show you these are the same people you run into on
Exactly.
everyday,
Oh, yeah.
today basis
These are the people.
that tell you that they're not racist, but they're attending things like this. And like what we were talking about before we went live, all of this is an act of treason.
That's why there's no
I don't
place
remember
for it.
who said it exactly, but before we went live, someone brought up the point that this is treason. So in another country,
I think that was Spoolz.
Yeah, Spoolz.
It is treason.
Like in Germany, you can't do the Nazi salute in
Yeah.
Germany.
Jail. I think it's immediately.
yeah,
Like
I mean
they
you
take
can't.
you to jail.
That happened over the weekend. Even somebody
Yeah.
there did that in Germany over the weekend,
Yeah.
and they got jailed.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
with awaiting charges. Like,
Yeah.
why is that okay?
And this is where it was.
And I understand
people
the-
have adapted it over here. Though.
And I understand the First Amendment. I understand all that. But when it turns into a hate group,
right.
that doesn't seem to really be rooted in anything real, other than the kind of their own fears. I mean, we've talked about this group a lot. This is my country,
Yeah.
and it's being taken away from me group of white people. you know?
Yes.
It's just
What do they call themselves? The quiet majority,
something like that.
Yeah.
the silent.
I just
something
and,
like
and
that.
it's so hard for me to relate sometimes because I've just never, ever, and I'm a highly functioning member of our society. I have a job, pay taxes, I have for a long time.
Mhm.
Never one time felt like as a white person this country was being taken away from me, man. Never been rich, never been, but I've never once it's never had it just never had it's so lost on me to understand that.
Mhm.
That's a question that I wanted to
Mine,
pose to
not
you both.
yours,
You know what I'm
mine
saying?
as a white person. It's just never.
Well, a lot of not saying you all, but there's a lot of white males that are upset about affirmative action and when that went into play and putting a certain number of blacks in position to where they would get some jobs and
Yep.
things like that.
Yep.
Regardless of if that went into play or not, when you walk into your job, how many black people do you see in there? Like even before you got your new position, how many black people did you see
At
in
my
your
current
department?
job.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think when I was in the office. I would say it was slightly. Okay, so what's white people in this country, like 65% or something like that?
It's going down.
I don't know.
So, I don't know, somewhere around there. It doesn't matter. But I would say it was a few more than 60% white people, but it was pretty diverse. There was a lot of people, like Asian people from India, people from Pakistan, people from...
So the people left over were all different races.
Yeah, as far as black people...
Well, you can even just leave it at that, though.
I would say it was disproportionate as far as blacks, like disproportionate to the overall population.
Mhm.
But there were some black people there.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of a diverse company. The company I was at before, not as much.
But like the point I'm making, though, you saying that
Especially in
60-some-odd
leadership
percent,
positions.
right? 60-some-odd% of your company was white.
Mm-hmm.
The remaining positions went to minorities of different races. So essentially, the white still had the majority share in the business.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the higher ups are usually 90%. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Might be higher
and
than
male
that.
as well, typically.
Yeah.
It might be higher than that.
Yeah.
But they're scared of blacks and Jews and Asians.
This alt-right
I'm not understanding that.
This alt-right group is definitely not a fan of Jewish people.
No. What's the quote? When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Mm. And you speak on it more than anyone in
I
terms
mean,
of the white privilege. Like you've talked about that, I don't know how many episodes
Right.
back. Like you always address it. Both of you guys actually.
Well, I mean, I made the comment to Terry today, just before this, or maybe it was to you, Mike, that I said, why is it that someone else eat the same rights as you? How does that actually infringe on your rights?
I think it goes to what I just said. It
Exactly.
feels like
It's the same.
It's
It
that
feels like
feeling
it.
like somebody's taking something from you.
Yeah,
Right.
And
and I
when you're
just,
accustomed to that,
it's weird. I've never felt that way. I just don't. I can't. It's hard for me to relate to some of these groups. What is being taken? What's actually being taken?
Nothing. It's just a feeling. It's
You
just
know.
it's just a lifelong. It's a lifelong embedded thought pattern.
Yeah, and somehow the ties to. I'm not a super patriotic person. I was definitely less so when I was younger. When I was probably in my early 20s, right? But as I've gotten older, because if you really dig, you learn all the like heinous shit that this country's done, and what's and you're like, oh my god, like,
Right.
we're nothing like we say we are, really. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
but then you get older and you start, or some people, at least I did, stop being so pessimistic, and you can see the beautiful things that do happen in this country, and things like that. But it's just, if you're taking a very realistic look at what this country has done and its actual behavior, I find it difficult to be patriotic, man.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't say I'm not proud to be an American. I just don't. This white pride, proud to be an American. I just doesn't.
It's all built on violence, though. Think about it. Everything patriotic has something to do with violence.
Right.
Even when you go downtown, and if you're standing on the circle and you look at the war monument, there's cannonballs and rifles and all kind of stuff on there.
Yeah.
But it's so funny when people point the blame at, well, such and such and this group of people are violent and this, that, and the other. They learn from you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you came over here putting your foot on people's necks, literally. You
Hey,
took
man,
something that
Terry,
wasn't yours.
We stole this fair and square.
Yeah. It was so-called discovered.
Yeah.
How do you discover something with
isn't that a
somebody
bitch?
still living there?
Isn't that a bitch?
There's somebody living there. How do you discover that? That's like you walking into my house and saying, "Oh, I discovered this house.
You know what the
This is
alt-right
my
says?
house now."
The alt-right says, well, we were smart enough at the time to capitalize off of these things.
And that manifest destiny shit is something
That's
else. When
crazy.
you start like getting
That's
into
bull.
that ideology, and like
It's
oh,
crazy, and
look at
I'm
this,
not
man.
saying anybody is smarter than the next person, but the way things were done, like especially when they say we built this country.
We talked
How?
we talked about that before we came on.
And Terry, what
You
you're
overseen this country being built.
what you're talking
the backs
about
of-
is that same truth that seems to miss a lot of these alt-right people, like the real truth about America, which is what you just like. No, it wasn't necessarily built on just the backs of people that came over here from Europe. Like, it obviously wasn't.
No.
And
Not
continues
close.
to not be.
It's not even close though.
There's this weird
It's not even
identification
close.
or need to be, and I think capitalism has a big tie into this. Sorry, I know, I'm not
That's your favorite
I'm
word
not, like,
for the past 2 months.
anti-capitalist by any means. I'm not, but I
That's
definitely
his
have my
thing, though. Yeah.
criticisms of it. But this need, capitalism ties into it in that. And Brother Ali talks about it in a really good song called "Before They Called You White." We were listening to it before the show.
That record is dope.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's bigger powers at play. We talk about white people and, it's the founding father, and things like that and what it was. But there is a larger group of people at play that really, I think, run things. And it's going to start getting very conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? And like, it's like regular white people are trying to emulate that, but aren't that. And this same group of people up here has been doing keeping them in a certain place too. But it's like, as long as I'm better than this guy,
And they're allowing it to happen.
you know. But it's the whole, as long as I'm better than this person thing,
Yeah.
and that person is a minority, is a black
Mhm.
person typically, or a Hispanic person or something along those lines. As long as I'm better than, and to me, that's where the capitalism part comes in. Like, why is that important? That status,
Let
that's
me
the
ask you
part
the-
that it's just lost on me. Like, it just, again, it's shit that doesn't matter to me. That a lot of this alt-right shit's founded on, and to me, it's just, it's a lot of hate, ignorance, definitely a misunderstanding, and in my opinion, a misinterpretation of factual things that have happened.
Because it's being rewritten.
Yeah, and then a
Excused.
self-indulging interpretation of what history was, and
Mhm.
self-indulging meaning it suits them. It's makes them feel good about their actions and justifies some way their false interpretation, in my opinion, of things. And feelings are feelings, right? You can feel whatever you want, but and the basis of it all just doesn't. It's really
Yeah,
it's just
Let
ridiculous.
me
It's
ask
ridiculous.
this. Let me ask this then. So a lot of people go around talking about the Confederate flag is from their heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The heritage of, and they'll even try to sugarcoat it. Well, it's my heritage. I'm not like that, but I'm gonna fly this flag proudly.
I just yeah.
I'm
that
not
doesn't
totally
equal up.
getting that. And not to mention,
it's a
and this
bad-
kind of goes back to how do these flags keep coming together?
It's a bad
So
telephone game.
it is like how
It's very bad.
how does the Confederate South identify with neo-Nazi Germany?
Outside of the racial
Outside
part.
of the obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, how does it identify with that?
Yeah.
What is an Aryan?
What is fascist about America? And if you're so pro-American, you're again a white nationalist. Nazi Germany was a fascist country. Like it's really fucked, dude. Like the whole shit is all fucked. It just doesn't make any sense. Any
There's
logical sense to
nothing
me.
united about the United States.
Seeing
At
those
all.
seeing those
No.
two images together is like, to you both of your points where we talked about the flags and the symbolism. It's one of the biggest contradictions because, like he said, it's like, well, to this point, the origin is in Germany, right? But we're talking about joining the two together, like other than the racist piece, right? He
Mhm.
said the racist piece is, I guess, the connect. It's like, I don't see how the two are flown together. It just doesn't make sense to me. The
I
heritage.
don't see how you could fly either one of them.
No,
with
I
the-
agree, but I'm
Yeah,
just
I
saying,
know.
like, you see what they're
Yeah.
pushing the two together,
Yeah.
like they're together.
Yeah.
I've never understood that. Maybe you guys can speak to that. I've
White-
never understood how the
White
two
genocide.
is okay. I could dig it.
Yeah.
What is the "Don't Tread on Me" flag? What is that one?
I don't know that one. I was
Actually,
going to ask
not-
if you
I'm not
guys
really
knew
up
that
on
one.
mine.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
don't know.
either. White genocide is.
I just know
such
that one
clarity.
sneaks in there too. I see that a lot.
I think that might be more Revolutionary War, if I'm not mistaken, and more of like a independence from.
so. Pretty
England,
much
maybe?
all the losing
I
symbols.
don't know. I could be wrong about that.
You're right when you talk about the glorification of the losing piece.
The
You're
losing
absolutely
piece.
right about that. United States of America, yes.
And we talked about it's such a bad argument.
Yes.
You know, like when people say, "Well, I'm just representing my heritage
Right.
because and I fly the Confederate flag not because I'm racist or anything like that, but because it's part of who I am."
Yeah.
That's the equivalent to this.
So
There-
let's get
there
a
are-
constant reminder of this flag,
Yes.
which was a great blemish on this great company, great country.
Yep.
As I did rabbit ears for those who can't see,
We see you.
was in quotations.
We see you.
Don't forget about that, but forget about being enslaved for 400 plus years. Let's
And-
just wash that away.
I had this conversation with Lone, and I stand behind this. I'm adamant about this. And we talked about this before we started. It bothers me when I'm told by someone that is not African American, how I'm supposed to feel about any struggles or anything that has happened to my race in the past.
Just get over it.
The equivalent of some, like, for a great example, when somebody, it's the equivalent of someone saying, well, we talk about slavery and 400 years of enslavement and heritage and blah, 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 and someone says, well, just get over it. Times are better. Just get over it. Or, why do you guys feel that way? It's not that big of a deal. Like, those are the types of things that really, truly rub me the wrong way, because who are you to tell me how my race is supposed to react or feel about anything?
Mm-hmm.
What gives you the merit to do that? I completely disagree with people that say that. I try to keep my cool. But you don't have any right to actually tell me how I should feel about my heritage or anything that, black people have gone through. I'm adamant about that. I emphatically disagree with that.
I guess, so to your point, that's why most of what I've said today, and if you go back and listen to any of the other episodes, most of what I say on subjects like this pertain to what the white people, I guess, are doing as far as this is concerned. Because what you said's 100% correct. Like, it's not in the United States of America, in my opinion, as far as the past, the past of how races have interacted in this country and things like that. I don't think it is a white person's place to tell a black person what they should or shouldn't do, or how they should or shouldn't feel about anything.
Nope.
It's not. So, but what we can do, myself, Lone, other people that I guess are like us, are analyze the situation of kind of why white people feel that way, and then find things to do as far as that's concerned. Whether that be protesting, whether that be, just even trying to sit down one-on-one. I've thought about trying to do that. I don't know if it's
hard.
Yeah.
But
there's a guy,
necessary.
I don't know if you guys have seen this. A buddy of mine sent me this podcast a couple years ago, but it's a guy, it's a black gentleman who played guitar for a long time, and I think still may. He's played with everybody over the years, all sorts of bands. But basically what he's done is sit down with, like, not leaders, but like members of white nationalist groups, and just individually sat down with them over time, and has been able to get a lot of them to basically leave that white supremacist group
Based off conversation with them.
Just one-on-one conversation. And why do you feel the way you feel? And then basically breaking down to that person why the way they feel is not historically or factually rooted in truth, and different things along those lines. So to that point, that's what I feel like, I guess, myself as a white person can do to try to alleviate this situation or make it a little better for the people that come after me or us. You know what I mean?
Because it's not going to just go away, and that's what a lot of people seem to think.
Yeah. That
if you just don't do anything about it or don't give it any energy, it's just going to magically disappear.
And it's a long. You have speaking from just a lot of white, and Sean, I'm give you obviously see what you think about this, but having obviously interacted with, and obviously being a white person in this country being different from being a black person in this country.
Yeah.
When I interact with white people, there's a wide array and range of, like, the roots of this person's kind of racist feelings, or the root of this person's inability to see that they are fueled by racism. It's kind of all over the place with a lot of white folks. It's not always just like one thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's that's the best way I can think to be, like, effective, is to try to find out where it actually comes from, where these feelings, and then be like, well,
I feel
break it down.
I feel like number one, it's not my opinion, it's not any black person's job, period, to have to explain this stuff to white people.
Yep.
That's just, so when I look at it from that way of thinking, it puts it on me.
Right.
Or other white people to talk to our people, quote unquote.
Right.
To have those conversations. I also have a problem with what you just said. obviously I'm not black.
Right.
But it rubs me wrong the same way. I had
Yeah.
two conversations today where people tried to talk about, well, if black people could just take care of black on black crime,
Right.
which is
That's always the go-to.
It's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing.
Yeah,
So
it's a fail safe.
or well, black people have hate groups too. That's what Black Lives Matter and the Black Panthers were. It's like,
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
you need to go back and revisit history a
Yeah.
little
Again,
bit. It's
All
it-
alternative facts.
and then that goes right to Spool's point as well, because it's the conversation with white people on the race issue is depending on where they're from and how cultured they are, how they were raised, who they have in their lives.
Personal
Experiences, at the end of the day,
There's a lot of Remy's
Human.
out there,
a lot of,
Wow.
at the end of the day, I look at it.
unfortunately.
Shout out to Michael Rappaport.
We see you, Michael Rappaport. Great movie. Cube. We see you, Busta Rhymes.
I have to look at it from a lens of being appalled just because I am, but at the same time, they're still humans. And how do humans process?
This is the question I've been wanting to ask you, and I'm gonna throw this to you. We talked about. You said that there's sometimes from time to time that you might spar. We call it sparring. You'd be on Facebook and you spar with someone. But you also said that you noticed someone or some people that may have made slight progress,
Right.
in terms of, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago to now, we'll say, right? So here's my question to you, and then I guess Spoolz can chime in as well. How do you approach moving forward? Said person that has shown improvement, and then also that person that continues to joust with you and has no clue, that fights you, that's defiant, that's that person that tells Terry and I how we should feel.
Right.
What are your approaches to those people?
Well, it's frustrating, one.
Okay.
It's always
I can dig it.
frustrating.
Right.
But it's going to be frustrating.
Right.
And my approach has been more so geared towards less attack, less, more talking, less instruction,
Okay.
more, requesting, asking questions, asking engagement.
So it's the approach.
It's definitely the approach,
Okay.
because when you have these conversations with white people, generally it's a defensive mechanism.
Okay.
When I have conversations with people online or whenever I have them with them, they don't have a bunch of facts lined up. They have like 2 or 3 things, and then that's it. That's
or
all
a bunch
they know.
Of cliche statements
Exactly.
that
They don't.
everybody uses.
There's no depth there. So once you get to a certain point, they run out of stuff to say, and then it's quiet.
Right.
So if you get to that point, either they're going to shut up completely or they're going to start spewing insults.
Right.
The
I
goal.
don't joust. with
I know you
people
do. Yeah.
online. yeah.
I know
But-
Spoolz doesn't. Yeah. But
But it, depending on your approach and how you get there, you can have engaging conversations with people. And I don't want to say there's a manipulation in play there.
Right.
But sometimes you have to make people feel like their thoughts are valid,
Mhm.
or not necessarily valid, but that they're valid as a human being.
Right.
Ego plays a lot into it.
Huge.
Ego and just the human condition. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these are human beings. They think that they are right.
Right.
Man.
They think that they are right. So you have to approach it from an angle of like, this person knows this person thinks he knows everything, or she knows everything.
I want to come to Spoolz, and Spoolz, I'll flip it. Sean gave you his approach in terms of, the jousting. You said you don't, right? So,
I used to be a lot more about.
oh, I know,
Yeah.
but Spoolz, you said you don't take that approach.
No.
So you kind of hit it on it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the alternative? Because to me, this is my opinion. We react, we see, we digest, and we react. We are all in a position where we have a platform, right? So I feel like it's on us to have this conversation at some point. It's on everybody, but especially with us having a platform to be able to talk about, okay, so what's the next step, right? So Spoolz,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't joust and you don't go back and forth, how are you going to relay basically everything that we've talked about, would that be via casual conversation? Is that phone?
I
Is it,
don't.
you know what I mean?
I honestly don't know, Mike.
Okay.
I don't. I don't do the verbal. I don't. Here's why.
Okay.
And I applaud Sean for doing it because it does take a level
shout
of
out
patience
to, shout out to
and
him for
things
that.
like that to
Yeah.
be able to do that.
I
Because
agree.
I don't think the person doing this behind the keyboard is the same person that's sitting here and doing this.
I would agree.
And by that I mean people are different when they're behind a keyboard than
Yep.
they are face to face.
Keyboard
They
courage.
feel way more, open to say racist things,
But that's
than-
how they
than
really
would.
feel, though.
True.
They're just not going to say it to your face.
Right.
They're comfortable doing it behind a computer where they're not looking you in
Right.
your eye and seeing. You know what I'm saying?
Point being, it's very unfortunate. So
Yep.
if you don't have the balls to, in a human setting, like to interact that with me, I don't want to talk to you anyway. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, now it's hard to say who is, because you'll never meet any of these people, right?
Right.
Face to face, but that's why I kind of stay away from a lot of it. It turns into people, and maybe and I've never perfected my art of being able to have these discussions, but I mean, I was in a discussion once with someone I went to high school with who. And I can't remember who it was. It was one of the like an unarmed black man that had been killed by the police.
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy that had said who's black who said, I'm so sick of this and I'm not trying basically I hope this shit better not happen to me, something like that.
Right.
And he was like, well, it won't. This guy in particular was white. It won't if you just don't resist.
Yeah, that's because that's all you got to do.
Exactly. And that was the only one I jumped in on. I was like, you know what? And I thought about it. I always think about what I say and I think about what I'm going to type. So it was like, unfortunately, that's just not always the case.
It's not.
That's all I said.
And those are the same people because
And that turned into a and I was just like,
right.
Yeah.
Like I have nothing against the
name
police.
one white person
You know what I'm
think that
saying?
does this. I was like, dude, I didn't even say anything about race. Now you're getting your deep-seated feelings out on me for no
Right.
reason. Like,
It's just like I don't have any like direct hate towards the police. I don't necessarily like how they operate,
Right.
but a lot of these things and organizations are being made because of Black Lives Matter and
Right.
Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Like, when did you start seeing the blue banner or I stand with the blue and this, that, and the other? It's like, okay, that's happening over there. I'm not really messing with that. Whatever this cop does, that's what I'm standing by. That's
give
pretty
you-
much what that means to me when it says I back the blue and you see that blue ribbon. It's like I don't give a fuck how many people they shot or what reason they shot them for.
I'm still backing
I'm
them.
backing them.
Yep.
Here's
What you
the
gonna do about it? Pretty
Right.
much, it's like I'm throwing it in your face. Like
Right.
fuck you.
Right.
and to that point, did you guys by chance, just out of curiosity, and this should go to prove the point about how America is, like, did you guys see the clip within the last few days of I think a 16-year-old black male who had a gun that I think ended up being a BB gun, but they couldn't tell.
Yes.
And
I
they
remember
kept
that.
saying, we're your friend, just put it down.
Yep.
Put it down. And the guy just kept walking towards him, finally put the gun up to him, and they ended up shooting him. That hasn't been all over the news.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No one's protesting that.
Right.
Because it was justifiable, I guess. It's unfortunate when anyone loses their life, right? That's sad. But that is something the police would... that they unfortunately just kind of had to do their job there.
But
That's
the
not
thing
been
is,
in the news
it's
because that's that's not what was happening to all these other young black.
exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying?
And then people
that's-
don't even see the differences as far as when
So white people
somebody
need to notice
white
that, is what I'm
does
saying.
a crime, they're taken into custody. They get a trial
Yep.
every single time. Like you had the guy here that just shot the cop, killed
Yep.
the cop.
Yep.
The cop was checking on him after he got in a car accident,
Yep.
and he killed him. They took his ass into custody.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with black males at
The
all.
point I was getting at as far as saying,
Aaron Bailey.
Yeah.
Aaron Bailey. Yep.
the recent incident happened with the police shooting not being reported on and all these others. That is what I'm trying to like tell white people is like there was a massive difference between those two.
Definitely.
And the ones that get reported on aren't for any other reason than for why people are mad and why they're upset.
Yeah.
Don't find a fucking ulterior reason or motive or what's really going on
Or
behind
he should have
this or
did
anything.
this. He should have did
It's
that.
it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's disproportionate. and it has been for a very, very long time. That is why. Be mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop
Not
trying to
that Colin
justify it.
Kaepernick doesn't start, or not that any other reason not black on black crime. None of that.
Because
Just
black
that
on
this
the
heinous
term black on
phenomenon
black
occurs.
crime pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because
White on white crime. Okay, so I have sociology, right? I have a degree in sociology. If you look at these statistics, you are more likely, no matter what race you are, to be killed by someone if you're going to be killed by someone of your own race.
yeah,
Of your own race.
and most murders are in the act of passion.
Yep.
Technically, so you're in that environment, but that's something that they put out there to pretty much it's the whole rewriting of everything. So every time somebody black gets killed, we're going to call it black on black crime.
Right.
Whenever somebody white gets killed, if it's by a white person, they don't call it white on white crime.
Right.
They just call it a crime. Yep. Same way with every other race. They point it back to black people, the black people. They're just killing themselves. No, everybody kills their own race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just what it is.
There are numbers to support that.
There are definitely numbers to support that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take into account the systemic reasons to why
Well, that's what I was going to
murder
jump
rates
into.
are higher in certain areas
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because the next
Yes.
argument
You can't
is,
even
well,
you can't even get to that point because you can't even get to that argument, and it's just like
Yeah.
talking about when you get hit. You ask me how do you approach certain things.
Right.
It's hard because somebody says black on black crime, they think, well, black people are just killing a bunch of black people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You hit them with a little bit of statistics. They're like, oh, well, the statistics are... then you say something along the lines of, well, do you know why certain crime rates are higher in certain areas as opposed to other
And
reasons
that's
in
why-
historic...
it's a
You literally have to educate somebody from front to back that does not want to be educated, doesn't feel they need to be educated.
Because they don't
already
really want to know the truth.
you summed it
They
up
don't
well.
they don't think that there's anything wrong in the first place.
It's
Right.
not a quick
I agree with
discussion
that.
with folks like this.
it
It
is
is
a-
not. You have to start from, okay, black on black crime. Okay, if you're a black male between this age and this age, you're more likely to be killed. Okay, well, why? Well, because they live in areas that are more poor and they're more prone to violence. Okay, well, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Well, because of
Five whys.
okay, well, why?
Right. Right.
And then you have to have someone who's willing to even look that deep
Right.
Yeah.
There's a rebuttal to
without
everything.
some smart ass
Yep.
remark or
Yeah.
trying to like play it off on something else. And it's just like, man, like I'm not trying to make you.
Somebody today
I'm not
said
trying to make you think something specific.
Somebody-
right now.
somebody
I'm trying to
today-
lead you to the factual things
Yeah.
Right.
that have occurred throughout history that have
Mhm.
gotten us to this point, and make you maybe think about them a little bit differently.
As he said, systematic stuff.
it's
Yes,
it's
sir.
highly everything is very sensitive, because you're essentially trying to explain to somebody something that they don't know, and they're a
Yep.
grown ass person most time, and they
Yep.
think that they already know
Because
everything.
they're stuck in their ways.
Yep.
So
What
then
was it?
cognitive dissonance, essentially, right? I got told today that because I believed in white privilege,
Yep.
believed in it,
Yeah.
that I also believe in unicorns and
Wow.
something else, and I was just like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Empathy.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
A to
Last
Z.
couple things. Giving up the need to be right, and that's word to my man Jack Needham, who taught a class that at a company I used to work at that was really good. Giving up the need to be right about everything is really freeing.
Mm-hmm.
It helps a lot.
And
It
then
really does, because when you give up the need to feel right all the time, it really opens you up to like learning things.
you become available to be open.
I'm an American and I'm dug in, and I'm never gonna change. That's a Always Sunny line.
How about
I always
listening?
liked it.
Listening is the best way
Man.
to educate yourself.
Really listening.
If you learn to shut up and listen,
Yeah.
sometimes you can just listen and become a better person by listening. It is simple. Listen.
That was literally a transformation of mine. I just stopped talking and I just started listening to people.
Listen.
It helps.
So
People will tell you who they are if you listen.
Mhm.
And then we go from there. Right? Like I had to learn that. Took me a long time to learn that. Sometimes you have to just listen. Shut up, sit back, and listen.
Yeah, because some people, they'll sit there and act like they're listening to you, but all they're doing is formulating something else to say to you.
To jump
They're
right
not
back
listening
in.
to you.
Exactly.
What's that? It's a quote off some movies. Like, are you listening or just waiting for your turn to speak?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that I think we've come up with this a lot, in terms of our 2-part episodes where we kind of dive back in. I think today's conversation is healthy. I think today's conversation hopefully jogs the minds of anybody that watches, just to kind of sit back and say, hey, I didn't think about it like that, because the perspectives that you guys had, I wanted to kind of just let you guys talk about that, because it's usually ironically, and it's actually sad, but Terry will be able to attest to this. 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, we're talking about the black kid that got killed by. Mm-hmm. So we have to listen to how Terry feels or how Mike feels about this, and we talk about our experiences, right? So this is a situation where I wanted to kind of sit back and see how you guys felt about it, because we don't get a chance to go down this road often, mm-hmm. right? So I just really appreciate the comments. Like, it's good to get a chance to hear, from a white person's perspective about what's going on in terms of, especially with the event that just happened. Like, it's just dope. Like, I really appreciate you guys' comments on that, because a lot of people don't get a chance to hear level-headed, opinionated thought. No yelling, no screaming, no fighting, no cursing. Well, we had a little cursing.
Yeah,
cool.
And we didn't even go that deep into it.
We
really.
didn't.
There's tons of layers, but what I'm saying is I'm applauding you two, because
I appreciate it.
we
Thank
don't
you.
get a chance to see this a lot. It's usually the opposite.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
No
What's
doubt.
the name of the hat?
Blue, no bad ideas. We like to fly in the sky with
Nice.
ravens.
The Wave Runner, I guess.
The Wave
I don't
Runner?
know. No,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making up a name,
It's
but
a dope hat.
That is
Yeah.
dope. I might have to try to finagle my way into that one. We got anything popping? We got the build Thursday, which will be the day this airs.
Yeah.
Location?
𝐀𝐿 Institute. It's off, 3519. It's off 35th and Boulevard
35th
by Crown Hill Cemetery.
Okay.
6:30 to 8:30.
All right.
Discussions.
Come out. Voice your opinions. That's what they're looking for. Am I right?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about marketing. We're going to have some special guests this time.
Nice.
Brookins, Granite,
Okay.
and 𝗏𝗲𝗓𝗏, and somebody else going to be special guests. So.
Nice. Nice. Wine after work.
Friday,
Okay. Location.
6 to 10, Red Room, Broad Ripple.
Okay. Printfinity merch going to be on deck.
Yeah, I might have a few shirts to give away
Okay. You got
or to purchase.
Okay, giveaway or purchase, so it might be some type of promotion popping.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Definitely.
Okay.
Never know with Terrence.
Never know.
Hey, Terrence is turning into. I might start calling him Master P, because that boy's about that paper.
I'm
He's
trying
out
to
here
be
at the
Damon
trunk.
John. I'm trying to get that FUBU paper
Yeah.
and then end up on Shark Tank
Are you trying to be?
picking businesses to invest in.
Can we start calling you 𝐀𝐿
No.
No.
No, please don't.
Sir
do that.
Paddington Coleman.
Sir
That's right.
Paddington Coleman?
The bloke Paddington Coleman.
All right, that's gonna do it for episode 42, the Jackie Robinson episode. Longevity, DJ Jay Diff, aka the bloke
Paddington.
Paddington.
Coleman.
Coleman. DJ Spoolz, I am Major 7. Please subscribe. We got buttons, we got stickers, Patreon, we got a lot of neat stuff for you guys. And we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Shouts to Coleman Diddle too.
Yes, sir. Coleman Diddle, get your teeth is right.